You might have realised I haven't been posting too much Sorare content recently, and the reason for that is kind of twofold. One, I've set up my own kind of football YouTube channel, so that's got a lot of attention, but also I just don't have that same kind of buzz and connection that I've had for the previous 2.5, 3 years with this game. Now, let's talk about some of the obvious reasons that might be. Prices are down. The way prices are down, you have less interest in that. Doesn't really apply to me because when these prices have gone down, I've taken advantages to, almost buy the dip and have the same kind of value in these players. So although the prices may have dipped, I haven't lost any interest in a cash sense. So then the other key interest, obvious one, you've just played it too long, 2.5, 3 years, long time to play a game. I don't think so, because, Sorare changes every day. New players come onto the market, young players adapt and become, stonewall must-have players in the game. I'm thinking of like a Phil Foden, gone recently from someone you wouldn't really want to own, good long-term potential, but doesn't put up the scores to like, wow, this kid is going to start every game soon and absolutely rock it. Same for someone like Musiala, and they're just examples, but I don't think the gameplay's got any worse, and I don't think I've expired my joy in it in that term. I just think it's less fun in its current iteration. And I don't actually mean this recent iteration in terms of, divisions and playing different competitions and there's capped and All-Star's going to go and all of that. I actually think this has long-term potential. It's got teething issues at the moment. I've seen a lot of people and I kind of agree, top divisions haven't got the best sort of prizes, too competitive where you see really high scores, things like that. This UI looked fantastic, but when you go to use it, it feels like a job. Like it feels like a 9 to 5 trying to fill in these players, remember who's in the right spot, who's in the right divisions. I think that will come more naturally as we develop, but they also need to make it a little bit easier to use in terms of just having all of my team, so I can see, absolutely every team I'm playing. If I've lined up someone who's likely injured or likely not going to play, a lot easier to spot. Little things like that, fine. But the core issue, which I want to bring up, and I'm not suggesting a change, it's just an idea of why I think a lot of people might be feeling similar to me, because I've seen other crypto football games come out, or just football games really, they're not really crypto based anymore, and a lot of people just switch instantly to them. And obviously Sorare's lost a little bit of trust with recent changes they've made to some people, not from me, and then also falling prices will make people question. But I am surprised how easy it is for people to transition away and just forget about Sorare and just, oh yeah, I'm out, no problem with that. And I think it's because of the fun element. I don't think it's as fun and gripping as it once was. And the huge fun element we are missing here is that ultimate team style, buying in and out of your favorite players, riding price rises, seeing how high they can go, selling the top or missing the top and then he crashes with an injury. All of that sort of fun, having a decision about this player might be good. It's less and less important in the game. The current strategy is to buy and hold players. Now, we've had multiple iterations that help this, and I completely understand why they brought these sort of implementations out to stop the falling prices, and has it worked? It's tough to say because we can't see what would have happened without them. But collections, that's a big one. The more you collect these players, the higher percentage boost you get. So I'm getting 5% on every single one of my RB Leipzig cards forever into the future. That's quite a big incentive. So I'm not really selling any of these players if they go on, highs of, high form runs. Not selling anyone if they get injured or if they're on a low form run and I don't think there'll be long-term potential, because they have this collection bonus. Now, what that means is that the cost of this team is essentially illiquid. It will not come to the market. I can't get anything from it. And that makes the whole market slow down. So you'll see a lot of players on the market are struggling to sell cards. So if they can't sell their cards, they can't buy the cards they want. Don't click off yet, because this video isn't about slamming collections and how it's a bad idea, because it's really fun, really well implemented. Maybe just needs a little change here and there, because it actually works simultaneously with two other factors that were introduced to stop falling prices. Now, the next one we see that I want to talk about is the tax. So when you sell a Sorare card, if you sell it, you lose 5%. You lose a market fee of 5%, and yeah, you essentially get less. That's pretty basic across everything. They're trying to run a business here. I have said from the very day this was introduced, I think that fee is too high, to at the point now where I'm not really interested in selling most of these cards. I'll try and make a trade maybe so we can get similar, usage of cards and pile them all up. But if I was gonna start a trading series, or some sort of trade to glory, we've seen multiple different content creators try and do trade series, had fun with them, but it just wouldn't really work right now, because if you're trading against a 5% cut on every card you sell, it's very difficult to be right, over 50% of the time, then add that 5% on top. I just think that fee's too high. So honestly, if I was given the CEO position, or if I was given just this decision today, I would cut that fee to 1%, 0.5%, and if that meant less income comes in from the secondary market, so be it. Because the liquidity that I would add, that trading aspect, just becomes more prevalent and keeps people more hooked to the game, where they want to play. They want to play at that Ultimate Team, where you see, someone that might rise in price soon, and I might sell them. And I know FIFA has a tax on it as well, so it's exactly the same. It's a lot different when it's your real money and you sell a card for £100 and you lose £5 to, 100,000 coins or whatever it might be. So those two factors start this lack of liquidity, which stops a lack of trading and that lack of scouting instantly, hits, losses, taking advantage of short-term punts and things like that, where you build a gallery for the long term now. I'm building this Leipzig-Brighton rare champion Europe team with the next 2-3 years in mind, and they just won't be sold. So I'm not going to have those opportunities to get a player I might want and then take advantage of a price rise and get someone else and try and make him hope he rises in price, and that kind of joy of trading. Like, everyone wants to manage a football club like they're the CEO and they can buy and sell who they want. So that's two factors that really prevent liquidity in the Sorare markets. And the third one is exactly the same as we'll see here. So if you go to list a card, no, you are risking losing that card completely. I actually can't sell that card because I've got it not for sale. But Xavi, if I go to list him, this will stop your Champion Europe Rare Pro team. We all know what list or play is. People liked it, people didn't like it. I think at this point, I understand the concept of it. I just don't understand if it's list or play. I would much rather enjoy sold or play. If you sell the card, fine, gone, you lose all your rewards, risk putting them on the market for whatever price you want. But adding the fact that you can't even attract buyers for your cards without losing their utility. So when you're looking at like super rares, really illiquid cards, how can you get rid of them unless you want to lose 2-3 weeks, playing time of your player? And that isn't optimal for the game, I don't think. I think it's almost one of these stealth, not taxes, but I'll just call it a stealth tax, where you don't really see it having too much of an impact. And the impact it's having, I think, is quite a negative one. Because when the market slows down and there's a lack of liquidity, and we have this forever price decrease in Sorare cards because more supply is added each year, that's part of the game, everyone knew it when they were signing up, that's fine. But add in the fact you're trying to move cards quicker than the falling prices, so you're going to be taking haircuts on prices. So you go to traders like Baselbot here, you send him an offer, and you're getting instant replies. And you're like, okay, so I have to pay 20%. I lose 20% to Baselbot, but at least I get a player I want. And you'll find me doing the same thing. I think most recently I just made this huge offer to him to get rid of a load of junk, and I paid for Pascal Gross, like a top high-performing card, but I gave away like 30% of the market value of these cards because I can't sit and wait for all of these to sell. Whereas if the market was a little bit more liquid, I think it'd be so much more fun, where you can sell a card for 10 quid because you might be able to, because someone's, hoping they can get out of him for 11 quid. Like Luis Sinistera this week, he was coming into being started again. Even then, I can't go and sell him. I'd much rather just get him to a bot or get him to Pavel Trader, get that liquidity and a player I want. But the further problem that has is that drives prices down, because these traders, they're bots now, a lot of them, and they just undercut the market. And I have no problem with undercutting the market, but they have so much power on the game now because of that lack of liquidity. If you want to go and get a Sorare card you want, you go to a trader, pay their 20%, or you sit losing utility of your cards for multiple game weeks, hoping someone will play a price, or you undercut the market by a huge percentage and take that in cash. And honestly, I think these rules that were brought in to bring price stability, whether that's happened or not, it's difficult to measure. But the knock-on effects it has, it's had another one in my opinion, where you have these Continental Night special weeklies where you need to go out and buy a player that's less than 40. You probably don't want to hold him forever because his average is less than 40. And everyone's kicking off about it because it's like, well, firstly, I am aiming for a long-term strategy where I buy and just hold the best cards on the game because there's very little capped utility coming in the future. So you have another knock-on effect that people don't want to go out and buy these cards, because if you buy an under 40 and he doesn't get your reward that week, which is pretty common, only the top cards are going to get rewards these days, or the top lineups, you're not going to be able to sell him. So you've got a dud stuck in your gallery unless you send him to a bot who then takes 20%. And a lot of these like very low end cards now, they just refuse. Like I mainly deal with Basel bot because he's instant, and same as like Ruv Swap Bot and all the other swap bots. But yeah, it's like they're not even going to take your bottom end cards, where I feel like if you had that little bit more liquidity, people are willing to take a punt because you're not going to lose 5% instantly. You can list them later on. So it's a bit of a rant, but it's not really, because I don't think Sorare can bring a solution to this. I think it's something I just want to put out to the Sorare universe to see if other people say, yeah, I think you've got a point, or if it's like, no, everyone's loving the game, you've just played it for too long. The reason I don't think they can fix it is because 5% is a high secondary market tax to pay, in my opinion. People arguing that's not high. That's not high if you don't also get all of the assets sold and you bring more assets every year. Having the ability to take 50% of everything and 5% tax of it all, it seems a lot. But at the same time, I know they're paying out as much as they can to entice people and the rest of it. But like I said at the beginning, happy to take a little pay cut to introduce liquidity into the market. And I think if it goes really well, you'll make the same amount of money with the less tax, because more people will be willing to, interact, buy a player, sell a player. Oh, I got to get rid of all of him. Player prices should hopefully rise a little bit, because you won't have these bots having so much power to undercut every single listing and everything else that goes along with it. But yeah, I didn't get to the point why it won't be fixed, in my opinion. That 5%, I think it's dictated by the leagues. I think it will be part of the contracts. I've heard other people suggest that before, because it makes perfect sense that, we give you the license and we get 5% forever, or however long the 5% lasts on these cards. It could be a year. So they can't cut the market tax to, let's say, 0.5%, because then the team would lose so much to, in terms of like the football club, because if they did that and, the market auction dropped, they're not going to be happy. And then even if it rises, they're going to say like, okay, well, you've done this much volume and we were promised 5%. So yeah, there's not really too much they can do, but still little improvements to liquidity on the market would be great. Like the instant buy feature, great, Although at the same time, it does suck liquidity out, because every time you pay Sorare, like an auction or an instant buy, it takes liquidity out of the system. Whereas if you buy off a secondary manager, most of the time that feeds through back into them buying more cards to, kind of spread it around. And if everyone does that, Sorare take 0.5%, fine. But at the minute, when you're losing 5%, a lot of people aren't going to put it back into the platform, because it becomes a bit like a gambling platform, to be honest. Because whatever I put on here, I'm going to lose 5%, plus or minus whichever way the price goes up or down. So I don't like the 5% tax. I think it will probably stay forever because of long-term contracts. If you can negotiate out of it and change it for maybe a fixed fee or something, I don't know how it would work, but that would be fantastic. But we can make small additions to bring liquidity back. The two I mentioned at the start, list or play. Let's make it sold or play. If the card sells, fine, you lose the reward. But please, let me list my card for sale. Like, imagine the illiquid cards, like, cards that aren't getting auctioned, like a Paulo Dybala or super rares. How are you supposed to attract buyers? Like Sorare Data attempted it, but they didn't really come with that perfect solution. So you're just kind of hoping that someone comes with a reasonable bid, a reasonable time frame, and I don't really think it's possible. And then the second one is even harder to solve. Because collections, adding 5% to the collection where I've paid a lot of money to get to 5%, I don't really want that taken off me. And we don't want more drastic changes. We've just had the drastic overarching changes which annoyed everyone. But from the start, I think someone like PSU was very clear on this, and I think I was as well at the time, that you shouldn't... This collection game should have been a side game, where if you get the highest collection, every month you're getting a draw for a ticket or for a shirt or a cap or Sorare merch. Integrating it into the main game, I think, was a mistake. And although it's perfectly built where, new cards 20%, serial numbers 9%, that's perfect. Having them split by rarities and teams in the same club was genius. I just think a huge problem was integrating it into SO5, because now people... That 5% is huge. I don't want to sell these cards. People don't want to sell them. Another thing I haven't brought up, this has all just come off the head, I haven't planned this video. I wanted to be able to sell collections as bulk and Sorare take whatever, you know, tax they need, hopefully 1% rather than 5%. But I just think it'd be such a better scenario where it's like, right, I have all of these cards, I've built them up, I no longer want them. You know, maybe Leipzig have peaked or you're just not interested in the team anymore. If I wanted to sell them, I have to sell them to individual people, so they're worth less, and all of these 70%, 30% go. You can take, you know, 200, 300 points off, so it's not overpowered when you transfer a card. But yeah, overall, I think to conclude, what's missing from Sorare is that instant trading, in and out of cards, high liquidity on the market where you might be able to make a little profit. Sometimes you make a little loss, but it's not as prominent as it used to be, which means people aren't as attached to the game. They show up on Friday or Thursday night, do their lineups, hope for the best. Didn't work, we'll do it Tuesday. You know, maybe you get a payday, you add £200, but it's not like that everyday gamer anymore where it's like, right, is there any deals on the market? Like, I haven't looked at the market once. Like, I need a midfielder this week, let's see if I can trade for one. So let me know if I'm talking absolute nonsense. Let me know what other Sorare content you might like to see. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you for listening. Hope this made sense. Hope you agree, maybe. And Sorare, if you want to talk about it, always here. All the best. Cheers. Bye.